There you go, get him. There he goes, running. Running. Get him, get him, get him, get him. Get him, boy. Get him. He's caught in that tree. Oh, he got him. Get him, boy. Get him.
You know what time it is.
Welcome back to another episode of Get 'em Greg Fishing. I'm Greg Williams, and today I'm going to show you 10 tips on how to catch winter catfish. Stay tuned. Tip number 1, dress for cold weather conditions. When I go out fishing during the winter, I start out by layering my clothing. I will typically put on a long sleeve thermal layer, followed by a sweatshirt hoodie, then a thick fleece shirt followed by a wind and weather resistant jacket. My bottoms include a thermal layer followed by sweatpants, then a pair of thick fleece insulated pants. I typically wear 2 pairs of thick wool socks with a pair of waterproof boots. Top this off with a fleece toboggan for my head and a pair of gloves for my hands. Tip number 2, fish deep water. When water temperatures dip below 50 degrees, catfish will slow down and become less active hunting for food. They will seek refuge in deep water such as creek and river channels, points that drop off into deeper water, and drop-offs around humps. Winter catfish can be caught while anchored or can be caught slow drifting the baits around deep water hotspots. Using the Santee catfish rig for drifting cut baits around deep water hangouts is a great technique for cold water. Catfish will huddle in the mud to get as far away from the cold air as possible. They tend to prefer locations where the water temperature remains constant throughout the winter, so they will usually congregate together in the bottom of the warmest areas of the lake. Generally, your success in catching catfish in the winter will depend on how well you can locate these deep wintering holes. With that said, on warm, sunny days, catfish will follow the bait up into shallow areas, so don't be afraid to also look in shallow areas if the temperature is warmer. Tip number 3, make use of technical equipment and online resources. If you're unfamiliar with the body of water you are going to fish on, prior to even getting onto the water, take a few minutes to take a look at some of the free online maps available on the internet. Websites such as Navionics and iBoating offer free navigational charts for many lakes and rivers throughout the United States. These charts can be a great resource in assisting you in locating potential hiding spots for catfish. Use of fish finders also is a great resource for looking for catfish while you're on the water. Watery. This is the lake that I normally fish during the winter time. When fishing during the winter time, I focus on the lower portion of the lake, this general area right here. That's where most of your deep water is, or the deepest water in the lake is. If you see right here, this is the Lugoff Dam, and at the dam right here you can tell that the water is in a depth of about 71 feet. What I'll do is I may troll around in this area, slow troll anywhere from 0.3 miles an hour to 0.5 miles an hour depending on the water temperature. What I typically do is I'll troll these deeper areas. Again, you have deeper area here, comes up through here. I like coming up into this channel right here sometimes and slow trolling. If you can tell, the water depth is pretty deep up into this area. I also like coming down into this area right here and trolling around this island right here where the water's deep, and you can fish off these points pretty well. But during the winter time, this is the areas that I focus on in this lake. On warm days, I also like fishing around the islands. I'll go shallow in there and troll around in there for a little bit for some of the catfish that may be hanging out in there. Tip number 4, follow the 30-minute rule. If the fish ain't biting, move. If you don't get any bites within the first 30 minutes, move. Even if you're marking fish, if they're not biting, do not waste your time fishing in the areas of water that either do not hold any catfish or the catfish aren't biting. Tip number 5, take a cruise on the ledges. Ledges are a series of depth changes along the bottom of the lake bed. You can see them on maps by a series of tightly formed lines. Catfish will school up and move along these ledges looking for food. If you cruise the ledges, be sure to zigzag along the ledge, making sure to cover the depth changes from deep to shallow to see if you can find a school of catfish making their way up or down the ledges. Tip number 6. Slow down. Slower presentation is everything. Natural bait is moving slower in the water, and so should yours. The key is to slow the boat to less than 0.5 miles an hour. Drift socks can help you slow your speed. I normally troll at 0.5 throughout the year. However, as the water temp goes down, so does my speed. For example, if the water temp is in the 50s, I troll at 0.5 miles an hour. If the water temperature is in the 40s, I troll at 0.4 miles an hour. In the 30s, I troll at 0.3 miles an hour. Slower presentation will catch you more catfish during the winter. Tip number 7. Use a variety of fresh bait. Fresh bait is a must. When I am tournament fishing, I will use a variety of baits including shad, strawberry and jello chicken, perch, and brim. I will go out a few days prior to the tournament and catch the brim and perch. If I have to buy bait like shad, I typically will buy them the day of the tournament or the night before. Be sure to keep the bait in a bag in the refrigerator. Cut bait into smaller pieces than you would for other times of the year, as cats do not require as much food for winter feeding. Tip number 8. Use multiple rod and reels. When I fish for fun, I typically use 8 rod and reels, and during tournament fishing, I will go as high as 10. Fishing multiple rod and reels will give you a greater chance of landing a catfish. If you are trolling, be sure to take advantage of planers, which will put your bait out further and will give you a larger area behind your boat to fish. Tip number 9. Target breaksides of structure and sharp turns. Winter catfish will rest in large ovals with slow moving water, which makes the breakside of structures the perfect spots for finding them. Structures like fallen trees and logs interrupt the natural flow of the current. The opposite side where the current flows, the breakside, is where you will find slower water and bait. If you can drop your rig right into the eddy, you will likely find catfish. These areas are great targets for channel cats and flathead catfish. Be sure to also look for spots where the river makes sharp turns or where a point protrudes into a lake. These are locations where the current cuts into the edges, creating deep holes where the catfish like to hide. Tip number 10. Follow the bait. While catfish do not move as much in the winter, bait still is. So one way to find the fish is to follow the food. You should be able to find schools of bait on your fish finder. They will look like clouds. If you fish just below the cloud, you are likely to find the catfish that are waiting to feed. You can also look for birds. If they are diving into the water, you know bait fish are present and the catfish are nearby. Use that as your starting point to fish the area. Keep an eye out on natural ledges or creek mouth where cats may be hiding. Set your anchor and rise and then wait for the cats to bite. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get 'em Greg Fishing. If you like this video, check out a couple of my other videos up above. I appreciate you watching, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button below and hit the post notification to be alerted. New videos are available.